we design, and everything we sell, we make.
So that's your pitch for a customer. Someone in the street says, "What do you do, Mike?" Your cutest online, cutest personalised. What was it?
Your personalised products for kids.
Okay.
So,
what if you're talking to a business person?
I'll often then talk a bit more about the business model. So, depending how much they want to take on, we're extremely vertically integrated. It's a bit of a.
God, what does that mean? Give me a break, hey?
Exactly.
We've got like some kind of sound effect, please, Steve.
So, jargon alert. But it just means that we pretty much, for better or worse, we pretty much own the. We do everything. So the only things we sell is our own product. The only place in the world you can buy them is the TinyMe's websites, and everything that we sell we make. And so we're sort of in-house. Essentially means we're a lot of stuff in-house. Just
gives a sense of give us your top 3 products and then explain to us why, because that's really interesting. I mean, it's a basically a manufacturing business out of Melbourne, which is fantastic. Given all the headlines say manufacturing is dead. So give us a sense of the type of product range.
Yeah, so a lot of it's in categories. So we do a lot of, say, kids' bags, so backpacks, lunch bags, swim bags.
Yeah.
We do a lot of label products, like the little sticky labels that go on your kids' uniforms. And
putting Dobsons out of business.
So, yeah, that's right, with happily. And and then kids' books, so a lot of personalised books. We dabble into a bit of software there. We've got some augmented reality accompanying apps to our personalised kids' books.
Yeah, right.
And a book that
would incorporate the kids' name and
that's
sort of imagery that they nominate into the story.
Yeah, it's typically using the name, but
okay,
goes through the story.
All right, I want to talk more about personalisation later, but let's talk about TinyMe. It is out of Melbourne. I mean, that's incredible. That 95% of all your products come out of here.
That's right. So pretty much everything we make that's personalised gets customised or personalised in our.
It'd be a lot cheaper if you did it out of China, wouldn't it?
Well, it's a bit of a hybrid. So things like our bags, we're not there sewing up bags in our factory.
Yeah.
We actually don't know how to. So those ones will have a supplier in China, and then in that instance, all of the basically all of the customisation, the design, the colour, and the personalisation gets added.
Yep.
Whereas a book, it's just paper. It's wall stickers. We do a lot of decor. They're just paper, or just wall sticker media, and then they get digitally printed and cut in our factory. So it is a bit of a logistics play, really. Like it's quite complex in terms of managing all the different products we do and trying to do it in a way that's actually cost affordable. So
a few months ago we had Lana from Mon Person, who I think she ended up saying the permutations and combinations of what they could potentially sell went into the, I want to say billions, but that sounds ridiculous. But certainly the millions and millions of different things,
Yeah, that's right.
And then she got to the point where it was just like, okay, Tuesday at 11 a.m. this is when we're doing such and such, and they batch it up to then, and everything was managed to within an inch of its life, which I understand is pretty much similar to TinyMe, right?
It is. We try and do everything so it's as close to what we call a single piece flow. So one item could go through, another item could go through, but you have to do, because of the machinery in certain instances, you have to do batches. But that's getting quite into the
don't dig us out too much. Just say it's sort of like bird's eye. Where'd the idea come from?
It wasn't particularly strategic. My background's in industrial design. I'd always dabbled with side businesses, and then
always had a hustle.
Yeah, always had a hustle. Sort of paid my way through uni doing rollerblade accessories, and always had different market stalls, and I had a lot of failures, like a lot of people.
What was your worst failure?
I never actually put too much money into anything.
Right.
So in that sense, I had some that completely crashed and burned, but just wasted.
Yeah. Did $10 damn.
Exactly, and I didn't waste too much of my money because I didn't really have any, and didn't know anything about raising.
Yeah.
So I guess like a lot of entrepreneurs would say, like the failures are always learnings. So
of course.
Yeah.
But, cliche but true, right? I mean, would you still consider that to be the case?
Yeah, very much so.
Are you cool when you fail in TinyMe?
Yeah, like we prefer not to fail,
of course.
But we try and. The old adage, fail fast, and we'll basically not try and overinvest in something that potentially might be a failure, because you never really know.
Yeah. So okay, side hustles, whole lot of stuff, rollerblade accessories, love that. Hey, you've walked in with a bloody huge motorised skateboard, so clearly like a child of the 80s or something, are you?
I think having kids, I've sort of got, we've got a lot of cool kits. So.
Good, okay.
Dad endorsed cool kits. So.
You're a bit of a Phil Dunphy.
So...
Phil Dunphy, Modern Family, tries to be mates with his kids, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the young ones are young enough that they still think Dad's cool. And
good luck with that, mate.
You haven't grown out of it yet. So.
Oh man, mine are 20, 18, and 16, and I'm about the uncoolest thing going around. That's I'm okay with that. I think. Yeah. Side hustle. This one finally took off, right? TinyMe in some shape or form. Is that what happened? Yeah, we started with a little personalised wooden name puzzle as our first product. It's a bit of a random one, and that was really like my employer had a kind of like a computer routing machine sitting there idle, not doing anything, and I just finished there on really good terms. So I said, "Can I hire some time on this machine?" And and that product I knew had been around for about forever. But never been really differentiated, and was very much sort of cottage industry. So I sort of just gave it a new modern design spin and started selling it through the web. And it really was just like, oh, there's a machine sitting there I could use. What could I make with it? So and that we've sort of underpriced that first product, and so it just sold really, really well. This fascinates me. So we've got an industrial designer. I'm guessing not a lot of business acumen. Because you're a creative type, right?
Yeah, no.
But clearly there's something going on in the background that you've got access to a machine, personalised wooden thing. You don't just put it on the web. I love how people say, we just put it on the web and it's sold. Like, what does that mean? Did you use Shopify? Shopify wasn't around back then.
It didn't exist, yeah. No.
What does putting it on the web mean?
Well, we built a website, and I've probably spent about 9 months to a year, going pretty slow, because I was just doing consulting, pay gigs to pay. I had at the time only 2 kids, but a mortgage, and so just sort of paying the bills.
There's enough pressure needing to deliver, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And so it took a little while, and I just built a software called Xcart. Back in the day, it was pretty popular, similar to like a Magento. And sourced that one again. Right. I had some China source components, then local. And so I spent a bit of time, a couple of trips.
And then you a bit of SEO work. Back then, you're getting feedback.
Yeah, so that's when I started becoming. There wasn't as many podcasts around there, but started becoming a bit of a junkie for like basically self-taught online marketing.
Gotcha.
And it's not like you could necessarily go to a marketing person because it was all emerging so fast.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had a clue. What?
So,
you're what? You're building Magento? What's Magento? Is that an album?
So yeah, that's right. And so we got into SEO, SEM. We got into AdWords pretty early on.
S&M.
Sorry, SEM.
Oh, so
search engine marketing.
Yeah. Where's this conversation going?
Kids products, SEM kids products.
I've only got 6 kids.
So we did a lot of print advertising early on, as well, just because I learnt about these things called distress rate ads. If a publisher's going to press at the last minute and needs a spot to fill, I rang them all up and just said, I'm your man. If you've got some last minute space, I'll turn it around in 15 minutes. Because as a designer, I could just quickly turn around the ad, and I sort of hustle over. They'd come back with an 80% off rate, and I'd say, $160, it's a bit much. Can you do it for 100? And mainly because I just didn't have any money, so it was pretty genuinely like. And I think those probably in and of themselves wouldn't have had massive impact, certainly at full rack rate. But because I didn't pay much for them, they would have helped things. Mm-hmm. But then I had such a good. The price of the product I was going to market with at the start was just a really good buy.
Right.
So it was easier to sell. You didn't have to be.
You got one on the wall now. So like, have you mounted one?
Well, we still sell the same product.
Do you really?
Yeah, it's had a few little iterations, and we're sort of tweaked it.
Yeah,
but we pretty much still sell the same product.
So you have gone, okay, this thing's selling well. We've got a little bit of a marketing model here, distress rate advertising. It's priced well. Everything's come together. So at what point do you go, we're going to up this, and TinyMe is born? Yeah, so pretty much it was me to start with. My business, a friend I went to uni with, we'd sort of followed each other around in jobs. I didn't even know how to use these routing machines at my previous employer. Yeah. So he used to make the product for me. My old man would help me pack it and that sort of stuff. And then I sort of convinced him to leave his job and buy into the business as well, and not really invest, but sort of match me. Not a lot to buy into at that point in time, right?
We sort of had a Christmas peak, and it was looking pretty good.
Yeah.
And I just don't think we had particularly much. We didn't sort of think too much in terms of risk. We just sort of thought, this is going well. We'll give it a crack. I think we sort of thought we can always find a job if it doesn't work out. And so we basically got very quickly into a lot of product development, and that was because we could develop product quickly. because he was an industrial designer.
Oh, he was too.
Yeah.
See, this is great. And I always think that people with those kind of skills have got such a head start because whilst you might not have the necessary business acumen, I mean, you know, Dumbo, but, you know, you've got the creative, like product design, ideation, all that type of stuff, which many, I think we've all got it. Many of us don't recognise we've got it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So that worked quite well. We just pumped out heaps and heaps of product. A lot of them didn't work, but we didn't invest too much in them. So.
You're trading as moo.com.au back then?
That's right. So we
4 years in, you rebrand to TinyMe.
Yep.
Why?
Pretty much because about 6 months in, or probably even less, I realised if we ever want to go international, which I didn't really think about when I started, I just thought, let's make a product, and didn't even think about getting a .com. You pretty much have to have a .com or .co.uk or anything but a .com.au, because anyone outside of Australia, maybe New Zealanders know what a .com.au is, but an American's like, you know, it may as well be a dot, I don't know,
.z,
Nigeria or whatever they have, you know, like something dodgy.
Right.
So, and we couldn't get...
Moo wasn't available, of course.
It wasn't available, like it was...
Be worth bloody millions.
Yeah, well, it turned out that this, it's getting a bit technical, but basically...
Get the sound effect ready.
It was used as a sub DNS, which means people can make a free website called something.moo, and they basically said on their website, we are never ever going to sell this particular one. That was their one example of the one they're never going to sell.
Okay, so you rebrand to TinyMe, and well, you were forced. You had no choice. So it's not, you know, sometimes a rebranding can be a complete like pain in the ass and disaster, but you had to.
Yeah.
And things take off, right? You start to wrap some numbers. That's like 7 years ago. Wrap some numbers around where you're at now.
So now we've gone a lot since then. We've launched in the US and UK, and that was part of the rebrand. So basically getting into those markets with a domain that people, you know, wouldn't object to. And we're sub 10 million, but we're getting close. Yep. So, and we've got a lot of opportunity to push through that, particularly in those larger overseas markets. Was there one thing, can you remember in that sort of 7 year, from the time you rebranded, was there a moment in time where you really stepped the business up, where you did something that... It's actually been quite incremental. Early days it really stepped up, mainly because our base was nothing. Low, So, and we did a lot of that through product development. So just getting new product out to market and sort of riding the waves of certain marketing waves as well, like when Facebook... and they never last long because people find out about it. So Facebook, I don't know, when they had Facebook offers, they've still got them, but they had a little loophole in it or something that was, it just worked extraordinarily well. And then they realised it and thought, well, we want to make more money out of people. Facebook organic growth, Google organic growth was a lot easier to we've never been particularly good at SEO, but just been particularly good at making a really good product. So this is interesting. So, what you're saying, you obviously have a high respect for marketing, right? Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, good on you. I run the marketing department. You run the marketing department there. So and you are looking for trends. So how do you tell us about that process? Yeah, well, I often just keep up to date with sort of industry news, mainly through. Small Business Big Marketing Show. That's right, Small Business Big Marketing Show. Pretty much podcasts and blogs. Good on you. So, and you have to pretty much, and same with, I sort of follow a bunch of all the marketing stuff and a bunch of other stuff to do with the manufacturing side and some other sort of little pet areas of interest. Yeah. But on the marketing front, and then I sort of push that through to my marketing team, and I encourage them to push it back through to me as much as they can as well, because they'll keep across it. There's certain like social apps I'm just not even using, so so I have to kind of rely on them to sort of my team to tell me, is this going to be worthwhile pursuing? And I think one thing we've learned is we can't do everything, so we just got to be aware of everything and then decide more deliberately. We'll give this a go. We'll give this a go. Yep. So it is just give it a go. I mean, things like I'm going to pick an example: Periscope. Yep. Did you get onto Periscope? No, we didn't. You didn't? It's partly we didn't go too hard with Twitter in the first place. So it's within our demographic, which is pretty much mums with young kids. Yep. And in the UK, Twitter was a bit bigger, particularly amongst the blogger sphere of mums. In Australia, not so much. It's funny, isn't it, Twitter? Yeah. You know, it's hit and miss. It's good for news, I find. Yeah. You know, really good for news. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about Twitter as being like a cocktail party with sort of short, sharp bursts back and forth of conversation. But, you know, it can be a real time suck. Well, all social media can be a time suck. It can, but, what's the most for you? Would be Facebook, right? Facebook.
Pinterest would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Pinterest, Facebook, and Insta have all been pretty good for us, depending at different times over the years. Facebook was just completely awesome before they sort of, a few years ago, sort of was more pay for play, but we used to get ridiculous amounts of organic traffic.
Yep.
And huge amounts of reach and engagement, and then it sort of, it really, really waned. Mm-hmm. It's now one of our best paid channels. And so
you figured out the secret sauce around Facebook ads for you?
Figuring it out. It seems to change a lot. So what was working in terms of, I don't know, segments you're targeting or approaches you're targeting those segments, whether it's even your bidding methods or the creative you're using, whether it's a multi-image post or a video or a single image post, and your ad objective, all these things tend to be changing quite... Not really fast, but they do change. So what was working suddenly might not be working. So we've got to keep testing. And
there's great learning here, Mike, because, again, I speak to a lot of small business owners who go, Facebook doesn't work. Yeah. And it will, right? But
exactly.
What worked yesterday may not work today, and it may be that your headline's wrong or your image is wrong or you should be using video, not all these variables, which is, again, I always feel sorry for the business owner that doesn't have that sort of necessarily creative nous to kind of see that there are so many variables. It's not just about running it out on Facebook. Yeah. There's so much involved, isn't there?
Yeah, that's
so you've got to learn. Listen to a Facebook podcast or go and do a course on it. Or
and there's heaps of them around.
There are. Yeah, and then you've got to choose which one, right?
I love it stopping and thinking too. Like, are my customers on there? Well, yes, my customers are. And often the person who's it's not working for them, their customers might well be on there. And just thinking, well, what are they doing on there? How do they want to be interrupted if they are being interrupted?
Yeah.
And just actually thinking.
Yeah, correct. Hey, listeners, I'm talking to Mike Wilson, who is the founder of TinyMe. Now, Mike, you talk a lot about creating compelling value for your customers who you'd never see. You're 100% pure online play, but you are constantly thinking about how to just completely over-deliver. Would that be fair to say?
That's right, yeah. How do you make it so it's just sort of a slam dunk in terms of what they're willing to pay us? They just get outsized value for it.
So is this, would another way of talking about this be the customer experience? Or is it they different?
No, we use that terminology as well, the customer experience. So we sort of use a bit of a mix of jargon, customer experience and sort of value proposition or the value they're getting.
Okay.
And we talk a lot about in terms of what's the product in a holistic sense. So what's the product?
What do you mean by that?
Well, we see ourselves as a product business in terms of where the...
Well, you are. You're selling product.
We are selling physical product, but in that holistic sense, what was the customer experience in buying the product?
Yep.
And of consuming that product. So in terms of the personalisation experience, sort of how they got to the website, like any online business, the process they got going through the cart and checkout.
Yep.
Very often they wouldn't buy on the first visit, so how have we sort of re-engaged them and sort of seen that in a holistic sense as part of their customer journey or customer experience, unboxing the product and those sort of things.
Okay, so tell us about that process, because adding massive value, great marketing strategy, gets people talking. Well, how do you actually do that? Is it something you kind of map out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll map out, at various times we've done it, we've deliberately mapped out the customer journey, given them, personas, we've given them a name and said, here's Karen and she's got whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just to put a bit more life around it so it's not too abstract for the team. And we'll sort of map what the experience is like, and we'll just see where we've got weaknesses, like, we could fix that, Yeah. We increasingly actually get paid customer testing. So we get customers to come and try out our website or try out particular pages and give us their feedback.
How do you do that?
So
there are obviously businesses that offer it.
There is businesses that offer it. We just don't like paying much money.
Right.
So,
you go and find a persona.
It's going to get very technical. Recently, we've been using a sort of a mashup of Amazon's Mechanical Turk with some free surveying tools and a bit of it's getting quite technical.
Don't freak us out, but I think this is interesting. What you are trying to do is get a sense of what the customer loves and doesn't love, where the gaps are, what's missing, where's the opportunity, right? That's right. That's the outcome.
Yeah.
You kind of freak me out with Mechanical Turk and stuff like that. But where's the learning here? What's Mechanical Turk?
Mechanical Turk's essentially, it's an Amazon product where it's hundreds of thousands of people or do tasks for a small amount of money.
Right.
So it actually powers a lot of the world's artificial intelligence is actually people behind it actually making little small decisions.
Yep.
And it can essentially tap into them, get people within a certain demographic to go and do a task. In this case, go to this website and answer these 3 questions. It's not there's some products that come to market and put it all together in a package for you. But if you've got a bit of a technical geeky bent, you can
hack the system.
Exactly. You can sort of put it together yourself.
So you go to Mechanical Turk. You say, hey, can I have 10 people who can go to this page and buy a product? We've set it up so it'll cost you 1 cent, right?
Yeah, well, in that case, we might actually get them. Sometimes we get them to go right through. Other times we go right through to the checkout and then stop. That's a bit easier to do.
Yep.
Or we might send them to some of our competitors' websites.
Yep.
They don't know it's us that's asking them. And then we can get this sort of raw feedback of like.
And how do they feedback? Just as a consumer, or you give them a questionnaire?
Yeah, so it's either in that case it's a little like a Survey Monkey type.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure we're using Survey Monkey at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many of those tools.
Yeah, yeah.
Or a video recorder feedback. So it's about $40 a pop to do one if you got a company that will do a video user testing. It's a lot cheaper if you can sort of roll your own sort of.
Is this only for an online business who's selling product, or could you be doing it if you're a plumber or a vet?
Yeah, you can essentially find your audience one way or another through the internet and ask them questions. Now, whether it's in person or whether it's still through the internet, whether you're selling something online, you can still ask them questions.
Fantastic.
So, and that just does help. Is this thing too expensive? Is it, what's the shipping like? And a lot of aspects in the sort of product value proposition, and we can naturally focus on. They think this is important when they're until you talk to them, they say, I don't really care about that, but I care about this. And we adapt our strategy. And then obviously you've got to do it as a profit, at a profit, because you could just make it ridiculously cheap and not make any money. So we've got to work out ways of, what does the market want to pay for this?
Okay.
And we often ask the question, what would be what would you expect to pay? And then the other question, what would be a really good buy?
Yeah, right.
Because they're very different things.
Yeah, they are.
People will say $50 I'd expect to pay. They're not going to buy it for $50. Like, I'd expect it to be $50, but if it was $30,
I'd buy it.
That'd be a really good buy.
Yeah, gotcha. So. A past guest years ago, Joshua Nichols from Platinum Electrician. So he's got a whole bunch of Sparkies around the country. He's got this 21-step customer mantra, right? So it's literally timeline from the moment you come into contact with a customer for each Sparky to leaving their house and doing the most brilliant job, so they talk about you on Facebook and everywhere else. Yeah. Do you have something like that?
Well, we don't. We haven't. We've had elements of that over the years. We don't have it anywhere near as systematic as that.
Should
we should.
What are you doing?
So,
how'd you get on this show?
Thanks, Vinny. That's right.
You got work to do.
What kind of hack have I got here? Yeah, no. There's always things.
There's always
we've
stuff
got to
you've got to
do. Absolutely. And this thing of it's a bit abstract about creating really good, compelling value. And often, if you can get systems to sort of help you find out what that is, and we're trying to do that.
Yep.
But it's sort of, I think those systems would help.
Yeah, right. What do you love about the business, Mike?
I love the fact that it is lots of moving parts, and I hate the fact that it's lots of moving parts.
Yeah, right.
It means that we've got to be good at many, many things, and which makes it hard. We often say to ourselves, it's really hard. We've got a sort of design shop where we've got 6 software engineers, so we're writing a lot of software to do all the automation side of things on the front, on the website side as well as in production, and it's pretty messy in that sense. But it does mean because we control everything in it, you can do some pretty awesome stuff. You can sort of determine your own path to some extent.
That'd be quite. Do you find times where you're just chasing bright, shiny objects down a dark hall and you're going, oh, hang on, that's a complete distraction. Let's get back to our core business? Yeah,
very, very much. And we've put in systems in place to try and prevent us doing that. Particularly, we're not one of the businesses where we've got, trying to convince my boss to do some crazy out there thing. Like, we're the bosses that are trying to convince our staff to do the crazy out there stuff. So we've had to put systems in place to make sure we don't just get completely off the track and chasing shiny objects. There's plenty of them to chase.
So how do you, a system as in like what? Does someone sort of say, hey, listen, Joe, tap me on the shoulder if you hear me talking about virtual kind of reality or something?
Yeah, this could be another whole podcast. We've got quite a structured system in terms of we set long-term multi-year goals, annual goals. Like a lot of businesses, we run things in quarters. We have an annual top 5 focus areas. These are the main things we're focusing on. And in any given quarter, we've got top 5 projects for the business and individual or team top 5s. And they're all sort of subservient. And then we run everything in 2-week sprints. We use an agile methodology. So 2-week blocks. And they sort of all... And then we get everyone in the business to use a GT, Getting Things Done approach to David Allen's book. We buy.
He's been on this show.
Has he?
Yeah, he has. About 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I used to do this show with a co-host Luke Moulton, and Lukey just nearly did a full for Valve because it was like his hero.
Yeah.
And here we are with Dave Allen. Anyway, so you use his approach. That's a tried and tested approach.
It is, and that's sort of personal productivity going through to the 2 weeks, going through the quarterlies to the annuals, and they sort of at any given time we can sort of say within this 2 week block.
Yep.
Are we doing? Is a vast amount of the stuff we're doing not linked to our quarterly projects, and are they not linked? When we set the quarterly project, are they not linked to our annual focus areas? And it's this sort of check of keeping us on track.
Okay.
So we can go and do something else, but if we're spending all of our time doing some stuff that's not part of those, either the annual down to the quarterly, we know that
you've lost focus.
We're basically agreed at the start of the year this is our main focus area.
Yeah.
And we have to have a very, very good reason for that to change. It actually very rarely does.
You operate in a space, Mike, of personalisation that's becoming huge. You know, if we look back 10, 15 years, I remember, looking at websites like Trend Hunter or those ones, and you'd see where Nike 10 years ago you could personalise your shoes, and that was huge.
Yeah,
but that wasn't available to the small business person, right? But now it almost seems like in a world of sameness, personalisation is like you're going to be your point of difference going forward. Tell us what's next in that area, and how can a business embrace it?
I think it will become bigger and bigger, mainly because the method of manufacturing or the technology behind it, the software and the hardware behind it is getting cheaper and cheaper. So I think you'll get people that wouldn't have normally got into product. They might have come from a more of a computer science background or a mechatronics background, and then having a crack at doing product. Industrial designers, when I graduated, you couldn't go and really start your own product business. Nowadays, because of the Kickstarters and Indiegogos and because of it's so easy to get a website up and you can actually go and source manufacturing, it's so much more accessible. So I think a lot of people that's not necessarily personalised, but the similar tech to do sort of one-offs essentially is getting more and more accessible. So we're starting to look at lots of robotics, for instance, that wouldn't have been accessible to a small business, more auto industry, and now they're becoming very accessible. So now you've obviously got to have a bent towards that. You don't just get into robotics if you're not interested in robotics, but it's the fact that we are interested in it, and we can pursue those sort of technologies.
Yeah, right. What's the one thing that you just like in 5 years' time it'll be here, but right now you just go, I wish we could be selling that.
Yeah, well, on the 3D printing side, it's still not. We do quite a lot of 3D printing, but more internally, and not for finished product. There's people doing a lot of customised product with 3D print, but it's either still quite expensive or the quality's not quite there. For end consumer products, for industrial products, it is. But so 3D printing's one we're very interested in. So
okay, where do you want the business to be in 5 years' time? Global domination? Yeah,
global domination, absolutely. So in the personalised kids product space.
Yeah, of course.
We're actually not passionate about kids products, interestingly. So we've got our brand is kids products, and it's a great space. It's not overly cynical, and it's just it's quite a fun space.
So your passion is personalisation, right?
Our passion's a sort of intersection between design, emerging digital production capabilities, and emerging digital web-enabled technology. So we're very into those sort of
three intersections. That's a three-dimensional intersection.
Yeah, and we're basically that's sort of where mass customisation's happening.
Right.
And we're interested in that anything on the consumer end. So we're not as interested in the and building brands. So we don't want a white label.
Yep.
And that's not in our sort of roadmap.
Yep.
And just make stuff for someone. We want to build our own brands, but brands plural. So TinyMe is a kids brand where my design team would be very happy to do stuff for grown-ups.
Love it.
So,
okay, so you're cutting your teeth on kids' brands. Did you see what I did there? Thank you very much. Hey, Mike, I love the business, mate. Paul Greenberg from Nora speaks very, very highly of what you guys are doing. He said something like, it's like your production floor is like watching heart surgery. Something like that. He was very, very spoke glowingly of it.
Yeah.
Good luck in the future, buddy.
Thank you, Tim.
Excellent. Thanks, mate. That was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's so many rabbit holes we could have gone down.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.